I'm still H1 Hickman. We're still gonna cluster in the back over here. We're still gonna run IFI in that order. Alright. Next two topics are a little dry.
I got you.
Still important. Right. Wastewater treatment and disposal, ashore and afloat. Alright. So make sure you guys know all the terms. Black water is human body waste. Alright, so that's your boil water. Alright. Gray water is ship generated wastewater, so just think sinks. Alright, so black water is your toilet water.
Oh, that's fine. I just, like I said,
like
it was something.
Hand washing stations, your sinks in the galley and stuff like that. Right. And then MSD, marine sanitation device. Just know that there's 4 types: type 1, type 2, 3A, and 3B. Alright, so your type 1 is a flow through and discharge device designed to receive and treat sewage aboard ships and produce an overboard effluent with a fecal coliform count of not more than 1,000 per 100 milliliters and no visible solids. Type 3, still flow through and discharge device that produces an overboard effluent with a fecal coliform count of no more than 200 per 100 milliliters and a total suspended solids of not more than 150 milligrams per liter. The PAL Trinity Biological Waste Treatment System is an example of a type 2 MSD. Alright. So the PAL Trinity, I saw that on the chief exam, and that just kind of shows you how you guys still have to know these things, right, even as you pick up rank. Type 3A, non-flow through device designed to collect shipboard sewage by means of vacuum or other reduced flush systems and hold the sewage while transiting navigable waters. This type may include equipment for shipboard evaporation or incineration of collected sewage. Examples include the GADX evaporative toilet system, the Jared vacuum burn treatment system, and the Kohler-Dayton recirculating flush. Alright, so this is all your waste that if your ship is transiting through waters where the ship is not able to get rid of that waste into the water, this is the system that you use, one of the systems. And type 3B, collection, holding, and transfer, so CHT system designed to collect both sewage and gray water while in port. To offload sewage and gray water to suitable shore receiving facilities, to hold sewage while transiting navigable waters, and to discharge overboard both sewage and gray water while operating beyond navigable waters. The CHT system consists of collection and discharge piping, pumps, comminutors or strainers, and an aeration system and with holding tanks. Right, so you have 4 types. Type 1, 2, and then 3A and 3B. Wastewater treatment and disposal systems ashore. There's a little bit of variance, right? So sewage may be treated by a wide variety of methods using simple settling techniques or sophisticated engineering systems. Primary treatment consists of with or without chemicals. Secondary treatment is biological treatment. And then tertiary treatment is your advanced wastewater treatment. Right. Know those 3. Alright. Individual sewage disposal systems. So privy, basically just a hole in the ground. Alright. 10 to 25 inches in diameter, 15 to 25 feet deep. No longer authorized at naval activities, except for field environments. A cesspool is a covered pit into which raw sewage is emptied, usually lined with brick and mortar to allow seepage. And then you have your septic tanks. They're watertight tanks underground, which must be emptied, and it uses bacteria to break down and digest the waste. All right. Pit privy is the most, what's the word?
Oldest?
What was that?
Was it the oldest?
Yeah, it's the oldest. It's like the most, gosh, the word's escaping me right now, but yeah, it's like the oldest, most, just least sophisticated way of taking care of sewage. Alright, community wastewater treatment systems. They're large and based on community size, automated systems that treat sewage in step process that involves all three stages of treatment, your primary, secondary, and tertiary. And they have strainers or screens, filters, biological introduction, so like your bacteria that helps break down that stuff, and then chemical disinfection for chlorine. Right. The overboard discharge of untreated sewage within the navigable waters of the U.S. and territorial seas is prohibited. So know that within 3 nautical miles of shore, that's like the zone from the beach to 3 miles out. You can't dump any water in the area, alright? Navy vessels are equipped with marine sanitation devices, which either treat sewage before discharge or collect and hold it until it can be properly disposed of through dockside sewer connections or pumped overboard in unrestricted waters. MSDS on Navy ships increase the potential for contamination of berthing and working spaces with raw sewage. Therefore, the medical department representative must be familiar with the sewage disposal system and the procedures necessary to ensure the health and safety of the ship's crew. It's very important to do daily waters, right, for people on ships, because there have been plenty of times where drinking water gets contaminated with black water, right? So you want to avoid that. And then also CHT pipes burst all the time. All right, types of MSDs: zero discharge systems with full volume flush, or FVF, zero discharge systems with controlled volume flush, and flow through treatment systems. Alright, so the zero discharge system with FVF. The zero discharge system with FVF is a system which uses a standard 3 to 5 gallon flush and is able to store sewage in holding tanks until it can be properly discharged. The collection, holding, and transfer system is a zero discharge FVF system. Zero discharge system with CVF: collect, treat, and or store sewage from toilets and urinals until it can be properly discharged over the side or otherwise disposed of through dockside facilities. Minimize volume of wastewater through evaporation, controlled volume vacuum flush, and incineration. Your examples include the Gaddix evaporative toilet system, Jared vacuum burn system, and the Kohler Dayton system. And your flow-through treatment system. The flow-through treatment system treats wastewater to acceptable limits and discharges the effluent into receiving waters. The Paul Trinity biological treatment system is the only example of this type currently authorized. All right. Any questions so far? All right. Inspection of the MSD. Labeling and color coding. On the interior of the ship, MSD valve handles and operating levers, excluding hand wheels of gauge valves located on gauge boards, must be color coded gold. Paint chip 17043. Exterior deck discharge stations must be painted the same color as the surrounding structure. Deck discharge stations must be clearly labeled to include hose handling procedures and sanitary health precautions as described in Gen Specs 593. Alright, so just know they're color-coded gold. Anybody think of any reason why it's important to have different pipes and handles color-coded?
So you don't hook up to your pure water, potable water hookup where the daily septic tank line.
Right, or if the poor HTs have to fix a burst pipe or something along those lines, they know what they're fixing, right?
Well, I was just gonna say, the different valves and pipes indicate like fire main, concentrates, range left, the mixtures, and you wanna get into all of that.
You guys with your ESWAS know better than I do, so I only spent like a month on an aircraft carrier, so. Alright, inspection of MSDs continues. So MSD components must be regularly inspected for leaks by appropriate engineering personnel responsible for the compartment in which the MSD components are located. Look for small leaks using the paper towel test. Ventilation system in MSD rooms check for sewage, and all leaks, spills, etc. must be reported to the XO, engineering officer, damage control, and SMDR promptly. Alright, that stuff needs to be taken care of quickly. You guys know what the paper towel test is? So it's basically like you get like a wet paper towel, you place it over a pipe, and, or sorry, not a wet one, a dry one, and then if it starts getting saturated, it's there's a leak, right? Now obviously all that stuff, you guys are checking the pipes, right? You guys aren't doing any of the fixing, but it's still important to know how to identify those things. Strict adherence to good personal hygiene and sanitary practices is essential to prevent the spread of fecal contamination and resulting potential for the occurrence of communicable diseases. Personnel are required to wear protective clothing, including coveralls, rubber boots, rubber gloves, face shields, hair coverings, and an oxygen breathing apparatus as appropriate when contact with sewage is likely during maintenance or spill cleanup operations. So, for the guys on the ships, you guys never had to do anything like that, right?
We got the breathings filled with sewage, like tap water, and the cleaning crew for that did not do any of that.
Alright, so there's like failures on a whole bunch of levels, right? Because it's just another way to have to potentially get a communicable disease, right? And also it's just disgusting. Like, I don't think I'd be wanting to work in shit even with PPE, but that's just me personally. Alright. Personnel who come in contact with sewage must adhere to the following requirements. Movement about the ship wearing contaminated clothing must be kept to an absolute minimum. Contaminated clothing must be placed in a plastic bag at the conclusion of maintenance or spill cleanup operations for laundering in hot water and detergent. No special laundering procedures are required. Rubber boots, gloves, OBA, and other similar items must be washed with hot soapy water, rinsed with hot clean water, and treated with an improved disinfectant. Personnel must thoroughly wash with soap and water before engaging in other activities. So a lot of like common sense stuff, right? Like, but some people do have to be told this. Like, there are people in the world who will spend, hours cleaning fecal matter, and then without even batting an eye, they will go to the galley and they will eat chicken wings with their dirty hands. And then that's how you get a bad case of VG on the USS Carl Vinson. All right, moving forward. So, spaces which become contaminated must be thoroughly washed down with water and a stock detergent. In addition, food service spaces, berthing areas, and medical spaces must be treated with an approved disinfectant. All right, bilges contaminated with sewage waste must be pumped out, washed down with a fire hose, and pumped out again. If potable water tanks form the floor of the bilge, daily bacteriological monitoring of the water from those tanks must be promptly initiated and continued until it is assured that sewage contamination of the tanks has not occurred. Furthermore, if the potable water system is suspected of being contaminated, the appropriate tanks must be secured until the water is determined to be safe. Nobody wants to be drinking poo water. Signs must be posted in spaces containing MSD equipment, warning maintenance personnel against consuming food and beverages or smoking in MSD spaces, and directing them to thoroughly wash with soap and water prior to leaving the area. Why is the smoking thing important? Right, it's combustible, right? Like, somebody don't light up there. And, like I said, these rules exist because there was at a time somebody, probably multiple people, have broken these rules, alright? Alright, personnel who handle or connect sewage transfer hoses must not subsequently handle potable water hoses without first washing and changing into clean clothing. Pretty straightforward there. There must be no open flames, flashlights, or other electrical apparatus in or near open holding tanks or other voids until they have been certified safe by a gas-free engineer. When the tank is designated gas-free and safe, personnel may enter using an LPA or other approved respiratory protection device. A serious potential hazard associated with CHT systems is that toxic or explosive gases could be released in confined spaces. Hydrogen sulfide, I would keep that in mind. What it smells like, rotten eggs. It has been identified as the most likely gas hazard associated with the decomposition of sewage and CHT tanks. However, other gases may include methane, ammonia, and carbon dioxide. All right, any questions? All right, another one. Wastewater flow, and then
Is this one gonna be the updated version or no?
Chapter 7,
Just did 7.
right? Oh, yeah, that was chapter 7, chapter 6.
Is this the updated chapter 6 that just came out or no?
when did it come out?
2 weeks ago?
Probably not. No. I think these slides were made maybe a month ago. So, and again, if these bibs, like the prompter or the proctor who always, says these tests were made months in advance, and so there might be changes to the answers. Just go with what the bib says, right? So, all right, good. Any questions before we start?
Yes, give me 1 second. I don't know where he has his stuff saved. I don't know where he has his stuff saved on here. I want to make sure we got these guys. Where do you have your next ones? Alright, sure, can I get the next slide? So all you gotta do is hit this back button right here, pull up chapter 6. And then there you go. And then just, there you go. Are you still there?
Cool. All right. Chapter 6, water supply afloat. All right. So your different Navy commands that are responsible for different things in regards to potable water and water supply. NAVC Syscom, their responsibility is to design, construct, and maintain shipboard potable water systems. And then Navy Facility Engineering's command, their responsibility is for ship-to-shore potable water connections and provide potable water from approved sources while at Navy facilities. So just think of NAVC Syscom as basically the people who design the onboard shipboard water systems. And then Engineering Command, the Facilities Engineering Command, is responsible for providing the potable water to ships. All right. Chief of BUMED establishes and promulgates health standards in regards to water, potable water, and the commanding officer, craft master, will establish a water sanitation bill.
Those two right up here are the ones that love to throw on the test. The NAVC Syscom and the NAVFAC INGCOM, right? know your definitions and how to designate between those two responsibilities. I'm telling y'all, they're gonna throw both of them on there, especially this chapter being referenced on your bibs. And again, with the CO, what's that keyword? Establish, right? So that's fact, right? So keyword to know right there. If I want to know nav fact and I'm looking at the definition, paying attention to that word facilities in the definition. Fact, facilities. Okay? The nav C is for shipboard. So C, the ship is on the sea. Shipboard potable water systems.
Water sanitation bill contains procedures for receipt, transfer, treatment, storage, distribution, and surveillance. Alright, the responsibilities of the engineering department. Directly responsible to the CO for implementing the requirements of NAVC SysCom, and this includes supply and treatment of all potable water systems, and their components, and daily chloride and pH testing at the tank. And the responsibilities of the MDR: collect samples for bacterial testing, conducts daily chlorine residual testing throughout the distribution system, and reports directly to the CO. Sources for potable water: avoid making while in harbors or from polluted seawater, distillation or reverse osmosis, shore to ship, and then ship to ship.
So it doesn't say it on the slide, but you need to know what reverse osmosis is because I know it's in the instruction. It's taking water from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. High to low for reverse osmosis.
And uses: drinking, cooking, laundry, medical, and some exceptions to this would be seawater used for fire mains and ship decon. Usage requirements. So you have to be able to provide 2 gallons per day per man in emergency or unusual situations. All right. For new ship constructions, this is a 50 gallons per day per man. So old ships, 2 gallons per day per man. In emergency situations, new ships, 50 gallons per day per man.
There's that 50 gallons I was talking about earlier, right? So don't confuse that with your gallons per man per day for Marines and sailors in your chapter 9, which I believe is like 19 and 25. So this is just for the shipboard right here. New ship constructions, 50 gallons per gallon or per day per man.
That's only for your water restriction, right?
Yes. All right. Receipt and transfer. Testing must be done prior to any host connections. The MDR checks chlorine levels, FAC, free available chlorine, and notifies the engineering department if not up to par. If water taken aboard does not meet the standards, it must be held in storage, treated, and tested before distributed through the system. Alright, and potable water risers, 18 inches above the deck and turned down, properly labeled, color-coded dark blue, and fitted with a screw cap and keeper chain.
Pay attention to the 18 inches because that doesn't just apply to this. It's going to apply to a lot of supply and everything else. 18 inches off the deck is almost like that standard measurement that you're looking for.
Water production plants. There's 2 types. You have your distillation, which uses steam, waste heat, or vapor compression. And you have reverse osmosis. It uses a series of strainers, separators, and cartridges that remove particles. So there's your reverse osmosis plant. And water tanks. Water tanks will store potable water only. In emergencies, they may be filled with ballast water to save the ship. Vents and overflow lines reduces possible contamination. Openings must be covered with 18 mesh, cannot terminate in food service spaces or spaces containing electrical equipment. Measurements of water volume in tanks. You have automatic gauges, petcocks, sounding tubes, rod remains in the tube when not in use. So it's like there's like a tube, and then there's a rod that you place inside of that tube, and then sounding tapes. These must be sanitized at 100 parts per million in a chlorine solution for 2 minutes prior to each use.
Just remember you're sanitizing too, just because I like to relate things. Your fruits and vegetables, that sanitation was also 100 parts per million for 30 minutes. So 200 parts per million for 2 minutes for the sounding tapes, and 100 parts per million for 30 minutes for your fruits and vegetables for sanitation.
Piping. The piping passing through non-potable tanks must be surrounded by a sloped, self-draining pipe tunnel. Which they have it up. Repairs. Breaks are compromised in the system or entrance into a tank. The entire system must be cleaned, flushed, and tested prior to use. The MDR must be notified of this by the engineering department, and any compromise should probably secure those lines. Right. Labeling. Sounding tubes will have an ID plate with a cap color coded dark blue. Sounding tapes, the handle colored dark blue or labeled potable water use only. Valves will have a warning plate labeled potable water only in a quarter inch high letters.
So, thing I want to make note of is dark blue is going to be your thing all the time for these colors. And based on what you're talking about, the size of the letters changes. So this one right now is just for the valves is going to be a quarter inch. So pay attention if they hit on another slide with the same lettering.
All right. Potable water hoses will be labeled potable water only in 1-inch letters on each end. And the couplings will be colored dark blue. Potable water piping passing through any space must be labeled with the type of service and arrows indicating direction of flow. Storage lockers will be labeled potable water hose, 18 inches off the deck, vermin proof, hoses capped when not in use, and instructions on disinfection of hoses and risers will be maintained in the locker. Alright, disinfection facts. So when you test the water for free available chlorine, it'll be at 0.2 parts per million measured at the tank. Trace amounts must be found throughout the system. And on ship, they use chlorine, calcium hypochlorite. It's a type of bleach. Alright. Disinfection. Chlorine must not be stored with oxidizable materials. It will be kept in a cool, dry, well-ventilated space, not to exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and no more than 48 6-ounce bottles can be stored together. When stored in sunlight, it rapidly loses its strength. Over time, it loses strength with age, but keep it out of direct sunlight. Any storage locker with calcium hypochlorite must be labeled hazardous material in red letters on a white background. So don't follow this one.
I really hate that they put a yellow picture on there.
Not this one. Don't pay attention to this. Red letters, white background. All right.
I don't know. I wasn't here with that first PowerPoint, but that slide that had 0.2 ppms, don't get it confused because there's multiple times we're going to use 2.0, 0.2, 5.0 on ppms based off what it's used for. I believe 2.0 is for like approved water sources. 0.2 is going to be for disinfection. And correct me, tell me what it is. I know there's a specific one for 5.0 also.
That's your
Field?
field.
Okay. So they're going to put all three of those choices as answer choices. I'm letting you know now. So just know 0.2 for disinfection.
Alright, bromine, slightly corrosive, kept in clean, dry, well-vented storerooms. Again, requires a hazardous material warning plate, and the shelf life of that is 2 years. Alright, disinfection numbers. So you need 0.2 parts per million from approved sources and 2.0 parts per million from unapproved sources.
Which makes more sense. You're gonna need more chlorination for unapproved stuff to make it potable or whatever you need it for us.
Alright, disinfection of tanks. Apply a 200 parts per million solution to all tank surfaces. Flush inlet and outlet pipes with a 10 parts per million solution. And these must have a 30-minute contact time. Refill tank and test for chlorine levels.
Pay attention, it's disinfection of tanks. Because you're going to have disinfection of different things that have different ppms. For tanks alone, it's 200.
Good? Everybody wrote that down? Alright, disinfection of hoses, rods, and tapes. Hoses will be disinfected with 100 parts per million solution for 2 minutes, then flushed with potable water. All connectors will also be disinfected with 100 parts per million solution with a 2-minute contact time, and flush all shore water sources for 30 seconds prior to hookup. That's it. Any questions? Any slides